self-esteem, the diary method, which can be purchased from Kerin's website, which is reachbeyondadd.com, and you can go to her website and check it out. And you also have sample pages so people can see what the sample pages are like, and sort of how it's worked on. So is this a workbook? I think teachers nowadays are sort of, I don't know what the word is to use, deficient or unqualified to really have an idea. Maybe some are, but is this a workbook, Kerin, that is it in schools right now, or will it be? It's in schools, and it's just come out the first week of March. So it's starting to infiltrate into schools, and there is a form in the book for kids to have their parents be more aware of how the kid is actually doing in school, and it's called a Homeschool Daily Accountability Form that teachers can scan from a PDF file on Reach Beyond ADD, and they can send that form as often as possible to the parent online, so that helps the parent and the teacher be on the same page, so to speak, which prepares them both for effective, precise evaluations for parent-teacher conferences. So the Homeschool Daily Accountability Form is specifically to help teachers be accountable and at the same time help the parents be accountable, because today in the school systems, unfortunately, many parents put a lot of emphasis on what the teacher is doing for the child versus what the parent has to do. And not only am I a writer, but I'm also a coach, as you had mentioned. And I found that the child's issues can be exacerbated in school and at home if the parent themselves are not coping very well. So very often the parent may have ADD themselves, since ADD is a genetic disorder, and they need to learn coping skills that will enable them to give their son and daughter the structure and reasonable goals they need to feel better about themselves. So those are two basic sections of the workbook. There's a parent evaluation in the back, and the diary method is written in such a way that the child can give themselves, they can grade their own level of self-esteem. So eventually they'll see which number on the graph of 1 to 10 comes up the most, and that will help them realize what level of self-esteem they're on. And so this is not a workbook that's to increase pressure, it's to decrease pressure, and the diary pages should be filled out in a quiet time as often as possible so that the kids can really have that sense of positive reinforcement and reminders of what's really important to focus on a daily basis, whether it's rule following or friendship skills or anything else that I mentioned, and that's the purpose of that. Actually, I once heard of an interesting story who worked in a computer tech software company, and he told me a very interesting story about the fact that he was one of 5 kids who, all of which had ADD except himself, and his mother raised all 5 kids in the exact same way, and she raised them in such a way that they had structure 6 days a week, and they knew what the expectations were in terms of when to get up, what to do when you got up, not to forget certain things when you were going to the bus, what was expected of you in terms of when you came home and what you were going to be doing with yourself. And I asked him, listen, point blank, tell me, how did all the kids turn out as young adults? And he said they turned out wonderfully, and they're all very happy because I gave them the structure and the coping skills that they needed to feel better about themselves. So that's proof of the pudding that when a parent is organized and knows, what they expect of themselves, and they have good coping skills, and they feel good about themselves, that's going to infiltrate into their kid's life. And that's what I want parents to understand, that very often I'll be shown in my office a child or an adolescent, and I'll be able to refer them to certain specialists. But very often the parents haven't taken a look at themselves to see what it is they need to do so that the son or daughter actually have a better shot at a better life. So it's a little bit like when on the planes when they say if there is an accident, first put the mask on on your child, and then put it on yourself. But in this case, it's put it on yourself first, and then you'll be prepared to help your child or your son. First things first.
That's right. Children so feel what their parents feel, and if we are definitely out of balance and we're struggling ourselves, our children will struggle as well, and children with ADD are even more sensitive to these things.
Absolutely. And that's all the more reason why a workbook like this is designed to really help kids with their sensitivity feel as good as they can. And the bright side of ADD is that many children turn into adults that are more sensitive than the average Yogi Bear. And it's what are they going to do with their sensitivity that can either hurt them or help them. And it's very much a type of thing where a child and a teenager needs to be able to reflect and use their parents as a role model to look at themselves and say, oh, this is what I want to become, and this is what I think highly of my parent. And if they have the visualization of a parent that is all over the place and undisciplined and unable to control their behaviors, then that's what they're going to mirror whether they want to or not. And this sensitivity is something that can be directed into fine-tuning a person's life, and a parent can do that in many different ways besides offering structure and consistency. One of the things that breeds self-esteem into the soul of their son or daughter is to have the parent look at what they are good at and then ask themselves, does that have anything to do with what the strengths are of their son or daughter? And, review that. And that can be a jumping off place from which children can grow. For example, if you're a creative person, is your son or daughter creative? If you have a scientific mind, is your son or daughter scientific? And these are things that I try and encourage parents to share interests of theirs with their son or daughter to see if they have that in common, and that can really help devise a path for a son or daughter to really develop upon. Were you going to say something, Lynn?
Oh, I had read something too that, and the way, and what you're saying as well too, that, it's, they have this, I don't like to use the word disability, and a lot of people do look at it as a disability, and it's not. And I had read that it's really just a way of life. Just as all children are different, it's just another difference. It's a different way of life, as if you had a child that had extreme allergies or sensitivities to things. It's really just a way of life, and it's actually what I've read about it is, and how you explain that it's children that need to boost their self-esteem. And these are all things that I think any child greatly benefits from, and that these children have great abilities. They're not at a disadvantage at all. They just maybe need structure a little bit more than some children.
That's correct. And a lot has to do with not only the way a child is taught in school, whether it's in public school or private school, but the emphasis has to be on what is the parent doing to help their son or daughter be as competent as possible, and what are their expectations, and are they realistic? And that has a lot to do with, there's 4 different styles of parenting. And the first style is the do-everything parent, where they do everything for the kid. They don't, if they don't think highly of themselves as an individual and as an adult, they're most likely going to transfer those feelings onto their child, and that child is going to internalize that they're not able to tolerate frustration. They're not able to control their anger. They're not able to solve problems, and they're going to become extremely handicapped. And very often a parent will do that without even realizing, and of course their intention